If you want to see my top 10 recommendations for easy aquarium plants, stick around. I'm sure you enjoy this video and find it helpful in some way. So enjoy, guys. Hello, Geordie Scaper here, and welcome to my adventures in aquascaping. Okay, just quickly before I start about the content of this video, the aquarium plant recommendations, I just want to say massive congratulations to my beloved Newcastle United, who on Sunday won the Carabao Cup final against Liverpool. Newcastle have been waiting 70 years to win a domestic cup. A huge congratulations to the Geordies. Get in! Over the moon. Okay, so today's topic. The reason for this video is I get loads of questions about what aquarium plants I would recommend to people, especially for low-tech, no CO2 tanks. So I thought I'd put this video together of 10 aquarium plants. Some aren't specific plants, they're a group of plants, so it gives you a wider selection again. Again, these are just my recommendations, and I know I've had good success with these plants, and that's why I'm recommending these plants to you guys, because I know I've had success and I know there are easier category of plants, and I've grown these plants in low-tech situations without CO2. Just a note that these plants you can grow without CO2 injection, but with CO2 injection you're going to get faster growth, healthier growth, more colourful growth, especially when it comes to red plants. Let's get stuck right in to my top 10 easy aquarium plants. Okay, so these are in no particular order, and as I was saying earlier, some are groups of plants. Number one is an Amazon sword species, and this is Echinodorus ozelot. Gorgeous looking plant with large leaves. You can get this plant in the green or red variety, and it's got lovely large leaves and it grows nice in a cluster as well as a bit taller, so it's a really good background plant. This plant, with it being an Amazon sword, is a heavy root feeder, so I'd highly recommend a nutrient rich substrate like a good quality aquarium soil. It can do with root tabs and gravel, but I would always recommend anything that needs planted in your aquarium, I would use an aquarium soil. So yeah, if you're looking for a nice background plant that is easy to grow, I would highly recommend Echinodorus ozelot. Gorgeous plant. Second on the list is a red plant, but this red plant is much easier than the majority you can buy. So if you're looking for a bit red in your aquarium, I would highly recommend Ludwigia palustris super red. This Ludwigia species does go red without CO2 injection with lower intensity lights, but just not as red as it would with CO2 injection. It's a lovely plant for a nice little focal point, so if you place it just right, just left in the background of your aquarium, it gives you that nice little hint of red. Again, because you need to plant this, I would always use a good quality aquarium soil. Another good thing with Ludwigia species, they can easily be trimmed, and once you've trimmed, you can take that trimming and replant it, and eventually it will develop roots, and that's how you get that nice bushy compact look. And also for every cut of a stem plant you get another 2 shoots, so cut, replant, and eventually you'll have a gorgeous cluster of red in your aquarium. So yeah, that's Ludwigia palustris super red. Third on the list is Limnophila sessiliflora, and this plant grows like a weed without CO2 injection, without high levels of light, and it's a great plant for when you first start an aquarium. It's going to grow really quickly and take in those excess nutrients, preventing algae issues. It's honestly, it's so easy, this plant, and it's got a nice feathery look, and again you can cut, replant the cuttings if need be, and you'll get a nice clustered look. We've got another stem plant. This is Hygrophila polysperma. Easy category plant, low levels of light, doesn't need CO2 injection, and I really like this plant. I've only just started using this one more regular, and I know it was used regular by the legend, the late great Takashi Mono. There is another Hygrophila species, and that is Simensis 53B, which is really popular in the hobby. That's got a lot larger leaf, but I prefer this one because it's got a smaller leaf, very similar looking, and I just think it's a bit prettier and it's better for nano smaller aquariums as well, in my opinion. So that's Hygrophila polysperma. In one of my tanks, which I'll overlay footage of, there's a variegated version, and I can't think what the name is, sorry. I'll overlay it if I find out what it's called, but it's a variegated version. It's got a really nice leaf, so you could mix the 2 types in your aquarium. So that one was the 4th on the list, another background plant, which is Hygrophila polysperma. Number 5, this plant you don't plant in soil or gravel. It'll rot the rhizome and it will eventually die. This plant is known as an epiphyte, and you attach this to wood and stone, so you can actually squeeze it in little nooks and crevices between your wood and stone. You can actually use a glue, which is aquarium safe, like a gel type glue. You can just stick it to the wood, or you can tie it with some cotton thread, and eventually that thread just rots, but the plant by then would have attached itself. These plants do best with a liquid fertilizer because they do feed off the water column. So this one is trident fern, and trident fern is one of my all-time favorite plants. I mentioned before about groups of plants, and the ferns, the Microsorum species, there's loads of different types. So we've got trident fern, which is my favorite. We've got narrowleaf fern. We've got the regular Microsorum species. We've got a species called windelov. There's loads and loads and loads. But I just prefer this one because it's got a narrower leaf and a really pretty leaf, and it looks better, in my opinion, in smaller aquariums. So that's Microsorum trident fern. Gorgeous plant, and this is really good in the mid-ground amongst your wood and stone. You can use it in the lower parts of your aquarium, the mid part, higher. It'll do well in shaded parts. Trident fern, for me, it's really hard not to put them in a setup. Every time I do an aquascape, I always have trident fern in mind because it is such a gorgeous, easy focal point plant. And yeah, another good thing I like with them as well, because I've got a large long leaf, the flow in the water, and it's just got that nice look. So yeah, that's one of my favorites, trident ferns. To trim this one, what you do is just go right to the base of the rhizome, so feel to the bottom of the leaf and cut that away, or nip it away if you've got sharp nails, and just get rid of that. And do that with any older growth. If you see leaves that are starting to brown, have got holes in, they just don't look healthy. Just get rid, and then all the energy of that plant will go into new growth, not repair. So that's the best way with ferns, because if you do leave them, it can look a rather ugly, unattractive plant because it gets so brown, grows in on itself, and it looks horrendous. Once it's established, you can just drag your hands through it, sort of thing, and that'll release all the debris, all the dead growth, and keep that plant nice and healthy. You will notice new growth on the ferns because it has a dark tip on the leaf. Just get rid of the larger, older growth, and your plant will do spot on. Lovely plant. So that's Microsorum trident or trident fern. Number 6 on the list, this is Bucephalandra. I'm not going to pick a specific Bucephalandra species because there's hundreds of them. Gorgeous plant, become really popular in the hobby. Again, this is an epiphyte plant, so you can squeeze it in nooks and crannies within your aquascape, or attach it with glue, or tie it on. But loads and loads of Bucephalandra species. If I was to pick a couple out, I love a species called Thea, and I love a species called Kedigang. They're the ones I've mainly used and I've had good success with. But like I say, there's hundreds and hundreds of types of Bucephalandra. All of the species don't require CO2 injection and can tolerate lower levels of light, so perfect for the beginner. Bucephalandra tends to grow in little small clusters, so you might plant a small cluster somewhere, and eventually 4-6 months down the line it'll be double the size, nice cluster with loads of different leaf shapes, different variants of colour, that sort of thing. And it does flower underwater. People like that as well. You get a little white stalk of a flower which grows underneath water, because there's not many plants that do grow flowers underwater, so you might like it for that reason. So yeah, that's Bucephalandra, or Bus for short. Next on the list is another one of my favourites, and it's Anubias. There's tons and tons of varieties of Anubias. You've got larger leaf Anubias, you've got smaller leaf Anubias. These plants do best in shaded areas. So I like to fill spaces in the stone and the base of the wood with Anubias. You've got the regular Anubias nana, which grows quite large. You've also got the Anubias petite and bonsai versions, which are a lot smaller and perfect for filling those spaces. I use it a lot in most of my aquariums. This aquarium next is, this has got some large Anubias species here. We've got a mix of Anubias nana, Anubias bonsai, and there's a tiny little Anubias species called Pangolino, I think it is. I can't think of the top of my head. But yeah, there's a few different types of bonsai in there. This has got nothing planted. It's all plants that are attached to wood and stone. The plant you see, this is pothos, which is actually a house plant, but its roots grow in the water, and as you can see, it just takes over. So not one plant in soil, there's no soil in this setup. It's all plants that are attached to wood and stone. So just to let you know, you can create something beautiful without having to spend a fortune, buy the soils, buy loads of different varieties of plants. you can do it with just a couple, as I've done here. So that was number 7 on the list, Anubias. In particular, Anubias petite and Anubias bonsai. You tend to find they're the most popular in the hobby for our aquascapes because they don't grow huge. If you do go for the larger varieties like the Nana species, the many other larger varieties that you can get, I would use them as a focal point. So just off centre in the aquarium, it'll give it a nice tropical look. Next up, we've got a grass-like plant which is called Helanthium tenellum green. And this is a plant you can use as a carpet, or you can use it in and around the base of stones to soften the look kind of thing. This plant, especially if you want a carpet, will do better in soil. Plant this in soil, it will send out runners and eventually new plants will grow off those runners. You might have heard of bamboo being an invasive species, and it's the same because it sends out runners. So people in the gardens, if they've got bamboo planted in the actual earth, it's not potted, it can actually send runners and just pop out in the middle of your lawn, and it's very similar to that. That's the way this species grows. Sends out runners, sends out new plants, and eventually it'll develop a full carpet. So that's Helanthium tenellum green. Again, one of my favourites, and I find one of the easiest plants to grow as a carpet. Although it does grow a bit taller, there is other grass plants you can get that are smaller, but just be aware when you buy them, some are more difficult to grow as a carpet without the CO2 injection and without high levels of lighting. So that's one of the easier ones. Another easy grass plant is Eleocharis parvula, or parvula, I'm not sure how you pronounce that one. And that's one of the very first plants I used for a carpet plant. I'll overlay footage, and I've done it without CO2 injection. I was amazed how well it grew without the CO2 injection. It's the same when you get your pot, you split it in portions, plant those, eventually it'll send out runners and take over and create a carpet. Or again, you can just use it as fillers in between stones at the base of rocks and stones, or you can mix the two. What I tend to do is I'll mix them to get that more natural look. So the carpet might be a majority of the parvula, and then in between at the base of the stone, we'll put some of the Helanthium at the base of the stones, and it'll all blend, have a nice natural look. Just a little note, parvula, you can cut just like a lawn. So with your scissors, just cut straight across to keep it short, and obviously encourage new, better growth. With the previous plant, Helanthium tenellum green, you can't do that with that plant. When you cut the blades, it tends not to do so well. It doesn't recover as much. With that one, you're best out just picking out the runners to thin it out rather than cutting it straight across. So that's the previous plant. The plant we're talking about now, the Eleocharis parvula, that's fine to cut just as you would a lawn. So just a little note on that one. Last but certainly not least, we have Cryptocoryne species. And again, there's hundreds of species of Cryptocoryne. I've used quite a few varieties, and they're so easy without CO2 injection and without high levels of light. I think they do best in low levels of light in the shaded areas. So that's where they comes in real handy as well. If you've got a brightly lit aquarium and you've got those shaded areas, this plant is perfect. Cryptocoryne species, or crypts as they're known, are heavy root feeders. People do always say to me, saying, yeah, they're heavy root feeders, but I've grown mine in gravel, they're fine. And that is true, and that if it's working for you, that's great. I just find they will grow in gravel, but they don't grow as quick and they don't grow as healthy, and they don't have a nice leaf shape and colour without a good nutrient rich soil. So that's why I'd always recommend the soil root rather than gravel. You can even add flourish tabs or capsules, and that's going to help the roots. But if you're doing it from scratch and you're thinking of having a planted aquarium, I would always recommend having a good quality soil. But yeah, there's different opinions on that, and if you're having success with these type of plants with gravel, by all means go with that. If it's working for you, don't change it. But this is just my thoughts, my opinion, and this is going off the years I've been doing this hobby and what I've seen has worked, what hasn't worked, what's worked the best, that sort of thing. So like I say, just my opinion. So that's it, guys. That's my top 10 easy aquarium plants. There's more out there, and you might see different recommendations. Give them a try. But these are the plants I've had the best success with, and the plants I enjoy, and the plants I think look the best within a lower tech environment. Like I say, low tech meaning lower levels of light, no CO2 injection. Just give them a good fertilizer a few times a week and keep on top of your maintenance, that sort of thing. You should have good success with these plants. I hope you found this video useful and it's helped you make your mind up what plants you're going to go for. There is many plants out there and it can be quite daunting. So if you have found this video enjoyable, helpful, please give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing because it really does help me. I know you hear YouTubers going on all the time about subscribing, giving likes, because if we don't get those subscriptions, those likes, it's hard to find our videos. They don't get recommended to people, stuff like that. So obviously the aim of the game is to do these videos so people can actually see them. So that's why I'm saying like, subscribe and do all that malarkey. As usual, thank you so much for watching. Really do appreciate your support. Till next video, see you later.